Welcome to the Ogles channel. Thanks for watching today, and let's continue our journey to finish every single Game Boy and Game Boy Color game. Today, focus on a game called Dragon Warrior 1 and 2 for the Game Boy Color. Now, just a heads up here, I am going to divide this video into two separate videos, and this one is only going to cover Dragon Warrior 1 because these are full-fledged RPGs in their own right, and squishing them all into one small video here or into one really large video wouldn't do the game's justice, especially the second one. And so we're going to divide the video into two separate videos. Now, as far as Dragon Warrior 1 goes, I do have some experience with it because growing up I did have Dragon Warrior on the NES, and I never actually finished it, but I got pretty darn far into it. I'd say, judging from this playthrough, I was like maybe 80 to 90% of the way done, and I just simply never finished it. And so to some degree it was great to actually finish this game. But the story basically focuses on a evil demon called Draco Lord who has stolen the light orb, and that brings peace to the world, and is bestowed upon me, the hero, to go and defeat Draco Lord and get the light orb back to restore peace to the world here. And it is very much of a traditional RPG. It's one of the very first video game RPGs out there. You only have one hero fighting against one monster at a time. Very basic magic skills, very basic attack skills, but like it's a really enjoyable game. Like, I've played Dragon Warrior 3 in this challenge already, and that game was just so huge, like it got overwhelming at parts. This game here is nice, concise, maybe like a 8 to 10 hour journey through it, and I have to say, like, I really enjoyed Dragon Warrior 1. Probably, at least for me anyway, more than Dragon Warrior 3. But let's go ahead and get into the actual game here. Now, this particular game did get moved up in our queue a good bit because Hot Wheels 555, Linden Rage 8998, and Nightfly Studio have all requested me cover this game, so naturally moved it up in the queue. If there's a game that you want to see me cover sooner or later, let me know the name of the game in the comments down below. And just like Dragon Warrior 1 and 2, or in this case 1, I'll move it right on up in the queue. Now, I always start the videos off by looking at the box art for the game first. And the box art here obviously has both numbers on it, but I really think they're focusing more on the second game than the first game because there's a lot of villains here that are not in the first game. I mean, like Draki's on the in the first game, the little bat off to the side, Slime's in the first game, the Golem or Goldman in the far back left. They're all in the first game, but all the other ones, they are not in the first one. I'm assuming they're in the second one. And I'll just be honest, I do not like the hero design or the computer animated hero design here of the hero and his team. I just don't like it. It has nothing to do with the traditional Dragon Warrior animations for Japan. Has nothing to do with the traditional Dragon Warrior animations for the US. They just recreated something here that it looks like early 2000s, and I don't like it. It makes it look way too kiddie, especially for like, you know, like Demon Tree in the background. But I don't know. I don't care for this cover, but at the same time it does, you know, summarize the games as far as like putting all the enemies there, and it obviously has the title there. Now, when we start the game up here, we do have a choice of Dragon Warrior 1 or 2. Like I said, this video is only going to focus on 1. So we journey into that, and we have the classic Dragon Warrior theme playing in the background. It sounds great. I've always thought that this particular theme reminded me of fall or the autumn season. I'm playing this in the autumn season. It's like a perfect mash here for me. And hopefully you're watching this video in the autumn season and you can enjoy the fall music. I'll let a little bit of it play right here and see if you'd agree it's a fall tune. I don't know, there's something about it that just like really sounds like autumn to me, but you can let me know in the comments down below if you agree or disagree with that. But after this, you do get to name your hero. I name him Ogle after myself because Ogles wouldn't fit. And then you get a really amazing cutscene here of the Draco Lord coming to steal the light orb from the main castle here. And you can see like all of his, I guess, intruders or his minions invading the castle as well. All of these you'll fight against as the game progresses. Sort of gives you a little bit of a preview. And then it shows the Dragon Lord or Draco Lord flying away here and off into the distance with the light orb. A really flashy intro scene. The NES version did not have that flashy intro scene, and I wish they did because that is a really great intro scene. But after this, the game officially starts up, and we talk to the king, and he gives us more background as far as like what this light orb does exactly. And evidently the gods of the land gave the light orb to Lotto, who was like a hero who protected the land, and the light orb was supposed to basically help keep everything at peace and all the enemies at bay, or all the demons at bay. But now that Draco Lord has taken the light orb and sort of hidden it into darkness in his own little castle here, all of the evil demons and minions are coming out to attack the land, including the king and his family. And as you talk to like some of the people throughout the castle here, you actually find out that the king's wife has passed away, and his daughter was even abducted by some of the minions of the Draco Lord. And so part of our mission is not only to find the light orb and bring it back, but also to find the king's daughter herself to bring her back to the king. And so we start off here, we open up some chests, we get a chest with some money in it, which we're going to use in the closest town to buy our resources. We get a torch, and they tell us a torch is required in pretty much every cave in order to actually see throughout the cave. Somewhat of an annoying mechanic, but you know, it is what it is to try to make it a little bit more immersive. And they also give us one key to start off with, and you can hold up to 6 keys at a time, and you can use these to open random doors throughout villages or dungeons and whatnot in order to find different like special items and things like that. And after we leave the castle, we're going to go to the closest village here, which is the village of Tantagel. And when we get there, we're going to first go to the store, and we're going to buy the best equipment that we can from the money we got from the chest. I'm able to afford a club and a cloth, because I guess I'm very poor at the moment. But hey, it's better than nothing. But just like all other early RPG towns here, you're gonna have like an inn to sleep in, an item shop, sort of like a priestess in one area, and obviously plenty of people to talk to expand the lore of the game a little bit, as well as some like helpful clues of like where to go to next in the game. But there is one lady in the town who's like really bizarre here, because she asks to join your team, and if you say yes, her sprite begins to walk behind you almost like a party member. But the game never expands past having just simply one party member, which is you on the team, and her sprite just like disappears after maybe like 5 to 10 minutes of play. And so I'm left wondering, like, was the game originally meant to be like a multi-party RPG? And they decided later on to just simply cut that out, and it's sort of a leftover of that original idea. I don't know, it's just simply bizarre that they say she's going to join the party, she follows behind you, and then she just disappears, and your party never expands. But outside of her, there are a few other helpful hints in the town as far as like other towns that are going to be on this particular continent. They also say anytime you cross a bridge into another continent, the difficulty level is going to spike up as far as the enemies that you're going to approach. And they also talk about like the poison swamps that you can join in or journey through as well. And every time you walk through the little red area here, it's going to take some of your life away. I always assumed when I was playing the NES version, these were like lava pits, but I guess they are actually poison swamps. But we do leave the town, we begin to explore our first continent here, and like all RPGs, we get sucked into our first battles, and we're going to go against things like a slime, which is a Dragon Warrior staple, a little bat called Draki, and a little ghost called Spooky. Those are the only enemies on the first continent that I saw anyway. And the battle system here is definitely an upgrade from the NES version. You have more like a little background for it. Some of the attacks have animations on them. Not all of them, but some of them do have animations. And so the fighting system is definitely an upgrade. You have the basic stuff like, you know, a regular attack of your weapon, or you can use a like a magic attack, which you'll just learn naturally from leveling up. And you can also flee to battle or use an item. And truth be told, like for 99% of the game, I'm only going to use my weapon. The magic spells in the game just really aren't worth it for the most part. But as you're journeying through here, every time you defeat an enemy, you get experience, and you can use that experience to level up. And you can also get money from that in order to buy more equipment when you go back to town or find a new town to purchase better weapons. But let's talk about the things that you can find on this first continent. Now, there is a new town in the northwest area called Garenham, if I'm saying that correctly, and it's named after a legendary bard. And you can go in there and you find out that the princess has been taken east, so you have a little bit of a hint as far as like where the princess is going to be. And you also find out there's a cave nearby for Lato's memorial. And so you got a few places you need to go here. I do grind a little bit in order to buy the copper sword, and you know, get my attack up to win some more battles, and I also learn a new spell called Heal. But I go to explore the cave here. When you go into the cave, there are actually no enemies that are going to attack you, because it's like a memorial cave to honor Lato here. And when you get all the way over to Lato's grave, he like talks about how there are 3 special items that have been scattered across the land amongst wise men. And if you ever want to journey off into Draco Lord's castle, you're going to have to get those 3 items from those 3 sages to get the bridge to open up in order to journey into the castle itself. And so the game is developing outside of its story as far as like where we need to go or what we need to do as our overarching mission. And so we need to find the princess's daughter, and we need to not only return to Light Orb, but in order to get there, find these 3 sages who are going to give us our 3 separate items. But before I decide to go find the princess, I do go down south. I cross over the bridge into one of the southern continents, and definitely harder here. You find some magic drakes, which is going to be like a little red bat. You're going to get some scorpions who look like they have some pretty cool armor on them, some magicians who got, you know, the full-on mage robe, sort of like the main enemy in Link to the Past, as well as some skeletons, and they almost look like sort of like a, I don't know, a He-Man look to them. I mean, definitely has an 80s aesthetic. And truth be told, like most of these enemies are going to be the same throughout the entire game. They're just going to change their colors as they go and put like a little extra prefix to most of their names. Now I do grind here quite a bit to get my level up a little bit, get some money, and I do find a cave off to the right hand side. When you journey into the cave, you got a few new enemies. You get like an eider, which is like a awesome squid crustacean looking thing. You also get a droll, which is a snail, and I do know those appear in other Dragon Warrior games. And as I'm journeying through here, I find an iron shield, I get some money, I get a war ring, a strength shield, a mystic nut, and so like I'm really upgrading my character a lot. And so there's not a lot of like side caves to explore, but this one here is definitely worth the journey through, just simply to get all of these upgrades, to get your character better equipped to fight the enemies in order to level up a little bit faster. But once I finished up exploring this mid-southern continent, I go back to the original town and I start heading out east because I do want to find the king's daughter. And I end up finding another town out this way called the town of Cole, K-O-L. And it's a very pretty forest city here. And I don't remember an NES game if it had all the forest graphics in the background. It seems like that's something I would remember, but regardless, I do not remember it. But it's a very pretty town. And you do learn about a special sword that's been hidden throughout the land here. You get a really weird massage request, which I'm just going to leave it at that. And then you also have an island to the south that you can go to that's mentioned from some of the villagers. Now, I did remember from my first playthrough that the pixie flute is hidden inside the town. And I did look up to see exactly where it was at. And how you would ever figure this out, I don't really know. But if you go down like a certain number of steps from the bath here and you click the A button, you're just simply going to claim the pixie flute. It's a really weird cryptic thing to get. There's probably a hint in some other town in the game, but you know, you can get the pixie flute here. And now that I'm talking about the pixie flute, I don't even think I used that item during the entire game. Like, I don't even know where you're supposed to use the item. But regardless, here's the pixie flute where you find it in a very cryptic fashion. But I do finish exploring the continent. I do find a man off to the far right side who's like a sage. And he said if you bring the like some sort of a legendary harp to him, he'll give you a rain staff. And so now I need to find a harp in order to get that rain staff. But once again, while I'm out and about, I do grind a little bit. I do level up. I also, you know, spend some money to stock up on different items, to stock up on better armor, better weapons, such as that. But I finished my exploration of the eastern continent. I don't really find anything of note. I definitely don't find the king's daughter. So I decided to head down south. And in order to go down south, you don't actually cross a bridge. You go through the little cave here. And the cave doesn't really have any new creatures in it or anything of note either, or at least yet. There is a door we can open it up a little bit later. But once you get to the other side, you're now in the southern continent or the southeastern continent. And there are some definitely difficulty spike for enemies. We're going to encounter wolves here. They look more like werewolves, and it actually reminds me like of a toy I had growing up with their blue armor here. I'll put a picture of the toy on the screen. I don't even like know which toy line it was from, but I always thought it was a cool toy. More scorpions though, more skeletons, and there's also a really cool enemy called the Gold Man. And if you kill the Gold Man, it's like a giant golem here. You don't actually get very much experience, but you get a ton of gold, and you can really stack up your gold supply here in order to you know, get better weapons from the local towns. And so I probably grind here for a solid hour, just getting some better experience and try to get some better get some money in order to get these better weapons. This game is a very grind heavy game. And so just as a heads up, I should have mentioned it earlier in the video, if you don't enjoy grindy games, you probably won't enjoy this game a whole lot. I do feel like the grind's a little bit better or a little bit easier than the NES because I beat it way faster, or I got a lot further in the game way faster. And so I feel like the grinding's a little bit easier, but it's still, man, it's still a very grind heavy game for as short as it is. But the southeastern continent is not just there for grinding up your levels and, you know, get more powerful. There's also a really helpful town here called the town of Reimolder. And this particular town allows you to buy keys for the first time in the game. So all of those locked doors you've encountered in the other towns, you can finally go back to them and you can unlock them to get different items or find different pathways to actually advance the story a little bit. And so we stock up, we get all 6 keys, and now we're going to go back to all of our original towns and begin to explore them a little bit deeper. So the first town we go back to is going to be the Tantagel Castle. We go here, we go to the first locked door, we open up a bunch of treasure chests, we get all these different items from it, and there's a girl outside that says like a real hero wouldn't steal. And it's like, really, you're going to put guilt on me after I'm going to help the king's daughter here? I'm going to save the entire world, and you're going to put guilt on me for stealing from a castle? I don't know. Come see me after I've like saved the entire world and see if you still want to put that guilt on me here. But the next door inside the Tantagel Castle is going to open up to an area. They're going to give us a hint about Garenheim's grave. that is hidden behind like a wall of darkness. And so that's a vague hint, but we can use that a little bit later on. We also find another key shop in our main town. So now anytime we want to return to the hub here, we can actually stock up on our keys as well. But the main item we're going to get from the castle is going to be the Sunstone that a wizard gives us. So we have 1/3 of the legendary items that we need in order to finally get to a Draco Lord's castle here. But like I said, we are on our key mission here. So now we go back to the cave that we went through to get to Raimolder. And there was a locked door in that cave. So we go through the locked door. We end up traveling through it. We find a green dragon through here. And it's a great animation for the green dragon on the overworld screen. And a great animation for when you're actually fighting the dragon. And when you defeat him, you get 950 experience, which doesn't sound like a lot for the later part of the game. But for this part of the game, it's an enormous victory for us. And once we defeat the dragon, we actually rescue the king's daughter, who's going to be Lady Luna. And we actually pick Lady Luna up, and it actually changes the sprite, so we're actually carrying her. And I do not believe that was an NES game. I could be wrong, but I don't think it was. And we take her back to the king's castle. We show the king that we have rescued his daughter, and obviously he's very thankful. She's very thankful. And she actually gives you an item called Luna's Love. And you can access this item at any given time. It actually tells you how much experience you need in order to go to the next level, which would have been a nice feature to have like in the game just in general. But it also tells you individual coordinates away from the castle that you are. And that's going to help you find an item a little bit later on. And so if you've beaten the game multiple times, you don't actually necessarily have to rescue the king's daughter. It is an item that's only necessary if you're trying to figure your way through the game for the first time. But now we are still on our key mission here because we still have more keys to explore these earlier towns. So we go back to the town of Garenham. We go through a locked door to a building to the north. We take our hint here and we travel through a dark wall in the back, and we then journey off into Garenham's grave. And they warn us that no one's ever come back alive from going into the grave. So if we make it out, we're the first ones. And spoiler alert, we're the first ones here because we journey into the grave, we fight our way through it, and at the end of it we get a shining harp. And when we pick up the shining harp, if we remember, the old man in the shrine next to the town of Cole, he was asking for a shining harp in exchange for the rain staff. So now we take it back to him, and now we can officially get the rain staff. And so we have 2 of the 3 items that we need in order to finally get our way to Draco Lord's castle. But it's also at this point I've unlocked all the doors inside the towns I have already explored, and so now we need to find a new continent and new towns to go through. And so I journey down to the southwestern part of the map here. I cross over a bridge. Obviously the enemies get a little bit tougher, but they're nowhere near as tough as when you go into this little deserted ghost town, because this town has been overrun. I don't know the story behind it or why it got destroyed, but it is completely wiped out on, just sort of the rubble of the item shops and whatnot. And there's druids who are pretty much overrunning the area, and they are very powerful. And you end up deciding like you're just going to come back to it because you're not going to be able to survive inside this ghost town. And so I continue on my journey through here. I end up going further south, and then I start heading a little bit to the east. And I end up coming across another town that's being guarded by a golem. And when you approach the golem, you get sucked into a battle. And the golem only took maybe 3 or 4 hits, and so you can take him out pretty quick. But you do have to be the appropriate level probably to get him knocked out here. But then you journey into the town. This is going to be our new town, the town of Mercado. And in the town of Mercado, they have some amazing weapons that we are going to need to pick up here. They have the flame sword, which is one of the best weapons in the game. And they also have a silver shield, which they are asking a exuberant price to purchase this. And so I just simply take at least an hour, maybe even more, and I just grind constantly outside of this town, try to get my money up, try to get my levels up, and I ended up purchasing the flame sword as well as the silver shield. In my process of grinding, I also learned to spell heal more. I learned to spell a firebane, and so my character is becoming pretty much a beast at this point. And I've probably over leveled him because the rest of the game is pretty much a breeze for me. But this is a great spot to level up because you can just simply go back and forth, and when you need to heal up, go back into the town because you're right there at it, and you can go to the inn, heal up, and then go back out and sort of do your grinding some more. But we do have a really amazing sword here. We have a really amazing shield, but we need a really amazing armor to go along with it. So what we need to do is we need to head back to that deserted ghost town we abandoned earlier because we were too low of a level. Since we are now a higher level, we can go back into it, and there's a knight that we can fight inside the ghost town. And when you defeat him, you actually get Lotto's armor. And so now you have an amazing armor that not only allows you to walk on top of poison swamps without taking any damage, but every step that you take, you also gain some of your HP back, and you have an amazing defense. So this is a gold standard for armor that you need in the game. And it's very cryptic, the idea of where you're supposed to go to get this, because the knight is not like standing out there. You just sort of have to happen upon the right square. And so without a guide, this game can be pretty convoluted in a lot of cases. But at this point, we now can walk on poison swamp squares. We can walk on hazard squares. We go back to the town of Mercado. We were able to walk down, talk to an individual wizard here, and he tells us if we go to a certain coordinate, we're going to find a special item. And the certain coordinate is 70 north and 40 west of the castle of Tantagel. And like I mentioned earlier, if we go into our items and we click on Luna's Love, it actually tells us our coordinates. And so now we just need to find on the map 70 north, 40 west, and then we're going to find our special item here. We journey through here, and you simply have to keep loading the item up to sort of see your coordinates. And we end up finding our item, which is Lotto's Seal. And so now we have all 3 items that we need in order to access Draco Lord's castle. But it's not that easy because we actually need to combine the Sunstone and the Rain Staff together. And there is one single shrine that we have not explored on the map, and it is in the far southeastern corner. We go down there, and a wizard or a sage here, or a mage, I'm not sure what he is exactly, he combines the rain staff and he combines the sunstone together to give you the raindrop necklace. That ain't right. The rainbow drop is what it was. And if you take this up to the little spot where there's no bridge in order to access Draco Lord's castle, and you use the rainbow drop here, a beam of light will come down and basically create a little bridge for you to cross over in order to head over to Draco Lord's castle. Now when you get over there, it's a beautiful aesthetic, or I can't say beautiful aesthetic, an intriguing aesthetic, because the castle is up on multiple little cliffs here and a little lava pit around it, and the castle itself is just a really great sprite for the Game Boy Color here. And so I really do like the design that they've done when approaching Draco Lord's castle. Now when you get into the castle, holy cow, this is a huge castle to journey through, and if you are not like up to the right level, this is going to be a really miserable experience for you. Like I said, I'm a little over level, so I can blast through most of it here, but there are a lot of battles you're going to get sucked into, a lot of lost passages you can go through. Really, if you want to go through it pretty quickly, load a map up. But if you want to go through it the old traditional way and just sort of explore your way through it, it's going to take you a really long time to journey through a Draco Lord's castle. You do get Lotto's sword as you're going through it, which is going to be a really powerful sword. Not necessary to win the game, but obviously very helpful here. And when you finally get to the end of the castle, you go up to Draco Lord himself, and he is an adorable little demon sprite here. I mean, he doesn't look harmful at all, just as innocent as you could possibly look, almost like a stuffed animal. But you talk to him and you get sucked into his battle here, and his sprite is obviously more threatening inside the battle itself. But it only takes like maybe like 4 hits. He's taken out, almost no damage, and I was like, that's it? This is the entire game? And of course, it was a false ending. Then Draco Lord takes his true form, which is that giant dragon that we saw in the intro cutscene. And this battle here is a little bit more difficult. You're going to have to do the Hill More move throughout the entire experience. But maybe like 7, 8 hits, and he's taken out as well. Once again, I don't think I've used the mage attacks like hardly at all throughout the entire game. I may have used it on a scorpion at one point. But outside of that, I pretty much always use my weapon here, and Draco Lord is taken out in no time. And once he's taken out, he begins to vanish away. We pick up the light orb, light shines through it, and then it's like sort of blanks the screen out for a second, and peace is brought back to the entire world here. And when peace is brought back, now when you exit out of Draco Lord's castle, it's got little flowers around it. All the little swamp patches are now flower patches, and there's no enemies that can attack you. And truly, the world is just simply at peace. There's no better way to describe it then the world has been brought to a joyful conclusion here. And so we journey back to the castle here. We talk to the king. The king is very thankful. He's like, hey, you saved the world. You can just have my throne. You can just simply rule over the entire kingdom and entire world here. And we're like, no, we're not going to do that. If we wanted a kingdom and we want to have our own little castle, we'll do it ourselves. We're not going to take yours. We don't want the easy way out. And so the king's daughter asks if she can join along with us. We say yes. And so then we begin to walk away. The kings and men are, touting their horns and whatnot. And the game comes to a close as me and Luna begin to journey off to form our own kingdom and live in the land of peace here. And at this point, the credits do begin to roll, and we have probably the best song in the entire game. I liked a lot of the music, and it's just sort of Dragon Warrior fare at this point. But it's a really good song. I'll let a little bit of it play right here. it's just a great song to finish up a great game. But let's talk about Dragon Warrior 1 as an overall here, because personally, I did have a really good time going through it. Now, it's not a overblown RPG. It's not a really in-depth RPG. There aren't a ton of mechanics. There aren't a ton of customizations as far as like which upgrade system you want to go on. The mage or the magic side of things was really limited, but it's just a basic fun experience. Like sometimes you do want an RPG that sort of goes from point A to point B to point C to point D with just a few side quests scattered about. And this is the game for those type of experiences. And so I'm not saying like the other games are bad in the series. Like I really enjoyed the third one, but it did get so overblown toward the end of it. I was wishing for a little bit more of a simpler experience, and this game here is definitely the simpler experience. And so it really boils down to what players want. If they want an RPG that really just goes into tons of depth and just really, I guess, expansive is the word I'm looking for, this is not the game for you. But if you want an RPG experience that's sort of one to sit back, chill out to, and you don't mind a little bit of grinding, I think you'll have a good time with Dragon Warrior 1. It does show its age. It's not a perfect game. Like I said, the grinding is going to get on a lot of people's nerves. I personally didn't mind it. But as an overall, I'd probably give this game a 7.5 out of 10. And I could actually see myself going back and playing this one, where I probably don't see myself going back and playing the third one a whole lot. But I'm anxious to see what the second one's going to hold, because that's going to be our next video. And so this is a review of Dragon Warrior 1 and 2, part 1. And so next review is going to be part 2, and we're going to go through all of Dragon Warrior 2. And I'll go ahead and do a little comparison. If I like it better or worse, I'll do the comparison at the close of that video. But if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out my other videos, list stuff above, and go out there, find a great game to play. Simply have a great rest of the day.